This audio fiction is recorded for an adult audience. It may contain scenes of explicit sex, violence, and disturbing supernatural entities. Listener discretion is recommended.
Come, lend me your ear, as I speak to you of the macabre, the cursed, the maligned, the malignant, the possessed, and the downright demonic. Bolt all doors, lock all windows. Are you alone? Are you sure? I suggest you check under the bed, carefully, twice. BARATANAC, a new darkness at the world's edge. January 18th, 2017. Just after dawn, Declan was roused by Vanessa's familiar shouting. She had hiked up from what she called her cosy cottage further down the steep driveway. The night before, the house had been plunged into darkness by a power cut, after which he tossed and turned until the first rays of light. His face was pale and drained under the mosquito net, haunted by dreams of what he'd seen during the prior day's visit to St. Philip's Parish Cemetery. He fingered his amulet as he scanned each corner of the room. I must find Mama Myrtle, he thought, knowing further rest would be impossible with Vanessa's racket and those of the yapping hounds glued to her side, not to mention the echoes of fury from the dozen dogs she had left down the hill. I will root it out even if it kills me, Vanessa said below the veranda of the pungent stench that permeated the house. Everything has a source. Something has died in there. I know the smell. Yes, it's definitely rotting flesh, said the gardener. His honeyed voice seemed incongruous to the subject matter at hand. Declan hung on the man's words as he voiced his suspicions of a sick feral cat, or the skittish elderly monkey he had glimpsed around the property. Maybe that old man of the woods has crawled up on some shelf and breathed his last, he hypothesized. I feel like an old man of the woods, Declan said to himself. He sighed and wrenched himself from his bed. He emerged like Lazarus from behind his mosquito net, every joint and muscle still screaming from his ocean trials the prior day. He tugged open the shutters, blinking into the light. His palm pushed the window open as his chest swelled, attempting to flood his lungs with fresh morning air. All week he had flung open the doors of the large rambling house to let sea air flow through every space, but somehow the foul odour persisted. He hadn't managed to draw a deeply satisfying breath for days, the kind of deep breath that makes the blood tingle. His chest felt constrained, crushed. Hidden in the permeating putrefaction, Declan's wary nose again scented sulphur, a familiar scent to him after years of adventures and nomadic living around Asia's Ring of Fire. He'd inhaled it too many times, in Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. At Sakurajima, Pinatubo, Bromo, Tal, and the gateway to hell boiling mud pools of Mount Unzen, Japan's deadliest volcano, where the hidden Christians of Kyushu were brutally tortured for a new faith that threatened the nation's foundation. His throat had burned as he heard their screams on a fierce wind that whipped up the dry dust around him on Unzen's slopes, which were a graveyard to renowned volcanologists and mother to mega tsunamis. It was something that happened to Declan from time to time, hearing or seeing beyond this realm into desperate or painful histories. He had stopped discounting times when his senses told him about things that were not here and now. In Bloomsbury, the same sulphuric scent had at times haunted him, when his skin crawled and his pulse pounded, its stench exuded by seething, unnatural inhabitants beneath and upon the city streets, some trapped there and others raised from scars in the earth's surface, entrances to the underworld. Events there had compelled him to seek knowledge of demonic phenomena. Declan had leafed through many books in Treadwell's and Atlantis bookshops, where authors spoke of alchemic secrets and hell's dark elements of sulphur and also mercury. He learned that fearsome entities were forged in the brimstone of sulphurous fires, their shape-shifting forms then betraying the telltale malodor in their myriad physical manifestations. Some long-dead authors claimed that such corrupt spawn had lived on earth long before mankind and all his religions, with sulphur as flesh and mercury as blood in their demonic veins. They speculated on unknown events that had forced the entities to exist in shadows and netherworlds where once they had owned the world. Declan greeted Vanessa from the main door, forcing a smile. Her 3 yappiest terriers guarded her feet as the gardener wandered off. 2 flat corgi-esque mongrels and 1 pugnacious Yorkshire terrier that constantly scratched at the ground. When he mentioned that he had detected a mild sulphurous scent on the road nearby, Vanessa pooh-poohed the notion and, with her dogs, set to her search. "That is the rare aroma of putrefaction, my dear boy," she declared insistently, as if providing an emphatic assessment of a fine perfume. No good can possibly come from them poking about, he thought, his heart shrinking in his chest. They had the safety of daylight hours, but each of her steps forward chilled him for what she still might provoke. He resolved not to tell her more of what he'd seen by the pool, in the house, and at St. Philip's graveyard the day before. She had already labelled him a kook after his seeing spectral hallucinations at her New Year party. She declared her suspicions confirmed when salt crunched beneath her feet in every doorway, crystals cluttered every windowsill, and pungent herbal stews simmered eternally on the stove. The New Year party divulgence was enough, thought Declan. It doesn't seem fair to tell her about the other shadows if they haven't bothered her personally. Within a month she'll still be here alone when I'm back in Worcestershire, or even Bloomsbury if it's safe. To Declan, Vanessa approached the house with an innocent enthusiasm akin to that of an amateur spiritualist who tries to cleanse spirits away with sage. But the figure, my God, what if she angers it? He thought, unnerved. Everything's fun and games until a powerful entity takes offence at some interference, one that otherwise might not have even noticed the person and just left them alone. The corgis were oblivious to everything but each other, but the Yorkie stared up at the house, growled, fell silent and would not enter, even when its mistress and 2 friends barreled past Declan without him. Its sharp, desperate barks of warning would not stop until they reappeared. Le Papillon became a raucous carnival during the canine search, high and low, all to no avail. Rats were finally blamed. "They burrow under the floors and inside the walls," sighed Vanessa. "One must have got trapped and starved. I don't know why, but they have been coming in a lot more lately." "Maybe they're hiding from something," said Declan. "That smell isn't rats," he thought, as the dogs drilled fruitlessly under another bed. "She's right about putrefaction, but it's from something else, from the skin and innards of something demonic, the like of which Vanessa or her hounds have never experienced, and I hope they never do."